And welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Las Vegas, the largest Magic tournament in the history of the game. And it's a long history, 20 years. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Gavin Verhey, and we've got Luis Scott Vargas on the left versus Sander van Eijk, I'm going to say, on the right-hand side, who's led off with a swamp. Luis has an island for his turn. And let's see if there's a 2-drop from Sander. There is not. Is there going to be one from Luis? No, it's going to be a freshly drawn Vivid Creek off the top for Luis Scott Vargas. So back to Sander here as there's no play. And end step, there it is.
Right. And that in this format will normally herald a latchkey fairy, which I think Sander has. You crack in, so Luis will only take 1 damage, but the latchkey fairy will come on down, drawing Sander a card, and then he has a 3-1 body.
And 3-1 with flying, applying a lot of pressure in the air very early here and keeping his hand nicely stocked. Let's see what Luis can come up with here. He's going to use some other color here.
Oh, what a blowout
the 3-for-1 electrolyzed Luis
That is
Vargas.
That is some value right there. And Luis is a man who loves his value.
Oh, he sure does, and I can appreciate that. Wow.
Now, Sander's still got some action. I see he's got a Death Denied in his hand, which he's probably going to use at the end of the turn to bring back that Latchkey Fairy and Spell Stutter Sprite. I think Luis is holding a Mull Drifter, a Spellbomb, Academy Ruins, up to his usual tricks, but this time in limited, not constructed.
That's right. I see that he's got Academy Ruins with a Pyrite Spellbomb, which can get out of hand later, but he doesn't have a recurable. Jeez, he's all about recursion
Mirror
here.
Retriever.
Yeah, he doesn't have a red mana, continuous red mana source here,
All right.
so that's not going to happen for a little while. But a retrievable Spellbomb versus the Fairies deck is devastating.
Right, absolutely.
To quote our good
Zach
friend
Hill.
Zach,
Yeah, great 20th century philosopher Zach Hill. So there's
Whoa,
Sanders.
is that an Una in Sanders' hand?
Oh my, that is the Una. And I talked to a lot of pros. They said the first 2 cards they want in this format are the swords. Many of them had Una or Moloku as the 3rd card you want. And that is one of the top bombs you can have. And at 4-0, Sander has one in his deck and in his hand.
All right, so we're going to see him play a Latchkey Fairy. He's also got a Pepper Smoke in hand that he can activate here and draw a card off of it thanks to the Fairy.
All right, so Luis is going to crack in with that Mirror Retriever. And Sander will not block, not trading 3-1 flyer for that guy, of course. Academy Ruins, and we've got a Mull Drifter probably. Yeah, there's the Mull Drifter.
Wow. Mull Drifter, one of the best plays. So Luis has got essentially 2 3-for-1s this game, one off of Electrolyze and one off of Mull Drifter, and set himself up for a potent and great long game here.
Right, now he's got more in the wings, but Sander's going to try and end the game quickly probably. He's dropping an Una this turn. He's got a Bone Splitter in his hand. He can hook up to that Fairy or the Una to start dealing damage quick. If the game goes along, I think it favors Luis, but can the game go long? I mean, that Una's going to really cramp his style.
Yeah, that Una's going to start hitting for 7 and making just tons of fairies. Clearly, Luis is base blue here if you're sitting on Sander's side of the board, and he can just name blue and activate Una, Queen of the Fae, multiple times here. We get a look at Una up on the screen. She's got, I mean, outside of already being great as a 5/5 flyer for 6 mana, she's got a really nice side ability that acts as a dual win condition, making fairies to kill you or maybe just even mill you out.
Right, and I mean, either of those can happen, and they're both incredibly potent.
Yeah.
Luis has a couple options. He's got, I think I see a Torrent of Stone in his hand he could use. If he can get enough mana, he could Spellbomb and Torrent, but I don't think he's quite there on the double red yet. And he only has 1 counter on that Vivid Creek, so he has to make a careful decision about when he wants to pull that counter off. And he's got Etched Oracle. Yeah, this is a classic value deck. You can't spell LSV without value, so.
So he could play Etched Oracle for full mana here in an attempt to try to dig for multiple red sources. He's going to start off, though, with Aaron Ephemeron on the Suspend, and he's left up 4 mana for that Torrent potentially.
I talked to a lot of pros, and they felt like Aaron Ephemeron was probably the best common in the format. Blue is a color they liked being, and you play this guy on turn 2, he'll come out as a 4/4 flyer. It's just Zach Hill, devastating. All right, so Sander attacks with his Una, and Luis blocks. With 4 men up, that Torrent of Stone is almost certainly going to happen.
Yeah, that's a great situation here for Luis Scott Vargas as he has an opening here to take down Una of the Fae. Sander's going to get an activation. Oh! Is he? Wow, he almost picked it up. There's that interesting in-between time, but it looks like he's still okay. He probably named blue and saw red and a green go away. That is fantastic.
Totally an LSV deck,
that
absolutely.
Was fantastic for Luis. Reveals a forest and a tribal flames after his opponent presumably named blue for his Una.
Absolutely. And now Luis is starting to wrench control the game back. We were worried there for a second because Sander had a really good start, but now Luis is doing things like Etched Oracle.
And he's drawn a red mana source with a mountain
and
here.
Check this out. Etched Oracle plus Academy Ruins.
Oh. Who's going to get decked first? It could be Luis from all this card draw.
Now, I mean, Sander's not out of it, though. He's got that Bone Splitter that he can hook up to the Lashkey Fairy, and Luis tapped his red mana for the Etched Oracle, so he can't activate Pirate Spellbomb this turn.
Now, what is that going to tell you about what Luis could be holding here, though? Why is it because he like why wouldn't he leave up the red? Is it? Oh yeah, he had to do it for the Oracle. Sorry,
right.
Yep. And he still has that Mirror Retriever hanging out down there too.
Looks like Sander's hand has Aether Snipe, 2 Pepper Smokes, and a Spell Stutter Sprite. So he's probably going to crash here and then bounce the Etched Oracle, I would imagine, and then Luis draws cards in response. Does that sound right to you?
That sounds absolutely correct to me.
But we'll see. It's possible he wants to leave up Spell Stutter Sprite with Pepper Smoke.
Is that a Greater Gargadon in Luis's hand?
That's what I thought it was when I was shuffling by it, but I couldn't quite make it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going to kill the Mirror Retriever. And we'll see what Luis does here.
And he's going to get to draw a card if it lives.
Right. Sander also just looking for action here, so casting that Pepper Smoke makes sense. It gives a creature -1/-1, but if you have a fairy, you draw a card. So,
right.
And especially because Luis could activate that Spellbomb later, casting that Pepper Smoke now means that he is guaranteed to draw the card, or mostly guaranteed.
But Luis is going to activate either the Spellbomb or the Oracle here, right, to get the Mirror Retriever trigger?
Right, but he can't activate the Spellbomb to kill the fairy.
No, but he can just draw a card.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But if Sander passes, Luis could Spellbomb the fairy in response to the Pepper Smoke, and then Sander would have no cards.
Right.
Which, would be rough. Or would have to spend that Spell Stutter Sprite.
All right, and tick-tock on the Aaron Ephemeron.
Yeah.
So let's see what Luis draws for his turn. Another red source. So he's got all but green here, and we did see a forest in his deck, so we know that's hanging around there somewhere.
Oh, he's got a Skyreach Manta. Is it coming down as a 4/4 flyer? There it is, the Manta, the 4/4. And Luis applying pressure. And the thing about suspend cards, too, is you think the other guy thinks they're winning because they're like, oh, my opponent doesn't have much going on. And then the control player starts getting back into the game. Their card unsuspends, starts attacking. And as haste the turn comes into play, and you really feel the pressure.
Now, Sander has drawn a Pestermite, but he's just going to force a Spellbomb activation from Luis and pass the turn back. So Luis is firmly in the driver's seat here. It would seem at 14 life, facing a blue-black deck with nothing on board outside of a Bone Splitter at the moment.
And
there's the Gargadon.
Right, suspends that Gargadon. Luis still has that Etched Oracle. He's got the Cadme Ruins rolling with the Spellbomb. And Sander's going to Pestermite down that Skyreach Manta, which will help him out a little bit here, but he's still in a rough spot.
Yeah, really, really tough, too, because Luis has a full grip of cards here. I mean, he's looking to be in good position.
Right. And
here comes Etched Oracle again for the full amount, representing 4 damage at the moment. I mean, I don't know. He's got a Blink Moth Nexus, too, which will trade for most of the fairies that Sander has.
That's pretty incredible. So many colors with both the Cadme Ruins and Blink Moth Nexus. Luis must have some pretty good mana fixing going on there. Granted, the best mana fixing might just be having all your cards be artifacts.
That's true. That is true.
All right, so yeah, Luis does just what Marshall noticed and activates that Nexus to block. But here comes Pepper Smoke to get rid of that Nexus. But Sander will not draw a card because sacrificed in response to the Gargadon.
Now, the Blink Moth Nexus had Summoning Sickness that turn, right? So he wouldn't be able to activate its ability to give it +1/+1.
Correct. He wouldn't be able to do it till the next turn.
So he just ended up sacking it to the Gargadon instead.
And there's the Aether Snipe from Sander, bouncing that Skyreach Manta back, forcing Luis to potentially recast it.
You wonder if Luis is happy about that because maybe he'll find green.
Then he'll have a 5/5.
That's how he thinks,
Right. Everything's just opportunity for value. And like I said, there's the Ephemeron coming into play. And Luis's board said, oh, it looked okay. You had that, that Oracle running. But now he's got a 4/4 with haste and flying onto the battlefield this turn. He's going to probably smack in for 4.
Uh-huh. And he has so many expendable resources here. He can even just trade off his Etched Oracle for the Aether Snipe and just dig it back with the Academy Ruins.
Right.
He can block and draw cards if he feels like he's got more answers or more pressure coming. He's just got so many different options here.
Oh, Dismisser on the Aether Snipe.
On the Aether Snipe is interesting. Gets it out of the way for now. He says, Rift Bolt you.
Wow. Luis is going for the throat. Oh, it looks like Sander.
He is going for the throat because his opponent is currently tapped out and he saw lethal on the table. And Luis has exactly enough to finish off Sander.
And that's Greater Gargadon for you. It's 9-power creature, and you can sacrifice a permanent to take a time counter off it.
Yeah.
It suspends for 10. When you've got a bunch of lands you don't need, your opponent's tapped out, just go for it.
Hey, move in.
And if you notice, Sander had an Echo and Truth in his hand at the end of the game, but he tapped out there, wasn't able to use it.
Now I want to ask you, Gavin, there's a card in this format that could have made Luis's life very painful there. Slaughter Pact is in this set.
Or Pact of Negation. I mean, those are both things that he could have potentially.
So is that a really risky play by Luis, or did he have some reason to think that wasn't going to happen?
So basically, the thing that you're weighing is basically you instantly win the game.
Yes.
Versus probably winning the game. But the problem with the instantly win the game plan is if everyone has one of two cards in the format, and they're both rares, admittedly, you're going to lose. So it's weighing the options there. I felt like Luis was in a really good spot at that point.
It didn't seem like he was in a position to lose that game, though. We haven't seen his whole deck.
Right, and you never know what Sander might have. For example, if Sander landed, say, a Moloku or something like that, it could put Luis in a really tight spot. So I think you probably do just go for it there. Plus, even if Sander does have a Slaughter Pact, Luis is still in an okay position.
Yes.
I mean,
well, I mean, he sacked all his lands, right?
So he had, what, a 4/4 flyer?
Yeah, he does have a nice board.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad position.
It's pretty bad. When you've got 5 or 6 hands, right? Or 5 or 6 cards in your hand, you kind of want to have those lands around. Yeah, it's an interesting decision he has to make. I mean, another card that we saw earlier from Sander was Death Denied.
Right.
And, so let's say he just peels another Death Denied, gets back Una and a few of his other fairies. That Una is a big problem for Luis. He was super happy to be able to block with his Muldrifter and finish it off with the Flowstone. So, I mean, he's got to be worried about that coming back at some point, and maybe that was part of the impetus for just moving in.
Do you think you would have attacked with the Una if you were Sander there, knowing that Luis could have some kind of trick? Would you have sat on it?
Yeah, no, I'm really conservative with that card. I've played it in Cube quite a bit, and I never risk losing it. I always basically the way I view that card is like a really big enchantment that says I can dump all my mana into this for the rest of the game, and unless you deal with this card, I win. So I get to draw cards every turn, I get to keep my hand stocked, I get to keep playing lands, and all I do is dump all my resources into this card. And the beautiful part about it is that it's a win con in and of itself, but also you make enough disposable fairies to either keep yourself alive through that onslaught, through what your opponent's trying to do, or you just kill them in the air with the fairies that you end up making, depending on how lucky you get or how condensed their deck is. Let's take a quick look at our other one. We have Orey versus Willie Edel here. And it looks like they're in the early stages. Orey's got a capsule there that can, it's just going to sit there, and Willie's going to have to decide really what he wants to give up to it. Now a Saltfield Recluse as well. Is this a Pestermite?
Oh, no. Thirst for Knowledge. I do see a Electrolyze in Willie's hand, which will take care of that Saltfield Recluse with value on top of it.
That's nice.
Discard Sanctum Gargoyle. You'll see a lot of these kind of slower decks. I talked to a lot of players, and they felt like the format was a little slow in plotting, especially in Sealed, because you have all these great linears in Draft, but in Sealed, you kind of just are playing a mishmash of your best cards, unless you're green and you've got a 5/5 Onslaught. All right, and there's the Electrolyze on the Saltfield Recluse, netting Willie a card, and he passes back to Orey. Looks like
I have to guess, though, going back to the Una discussion, like Luis's deck has to be the worst all time to be playing against, because you're like, name something, and then you just hope you hit a couple of somethings because his deck was all over the place.
Right. I mean, I think, and so we see the game developing a little here. Not a ton going on.
Yeah, there's a Kitchen Finks on the side for Orey, yep.
But I feel like you just have so much mana, and Luis isn't doing a ton. But if you start milling him, or do that 3 turns, you're probably just going to be able to deck him out pretty easily, you know? That's why I would sit on it, even if you don't get that many fairies in the process.
You would sit on it, too?
I would sit on it, too, I think, yeah. Until Luis tapped out, then, obviously you can go in. But so Orey gets in with that Kitchen Finks for 3. That's the first attack we've seen in this game. And Willie drops to 17 life. And here comes Amory Seeker. So, okay, Orey's starting to put some pressure on. Willie's hand seems to be pretty stocked, though. There's Sudden Shock coming out, killing the Seekers. He's got a Bound in Silence there. Pretty good answer for Kitchen Finks.
Yeah.
I think I see a Pestermite. Oh,
and he's got a 6-drop.
Oh, is that a Moloku in his hand, too? Yikes. All right, so
that capsule.
Yeah, he's got to make sure that capsule goes away. So, okay, now we're back to the LSV match. So
and an Apocryphite leads things off for Luis Scott Vargas, facing down a Wrathy Trapper, which doesn't do a ton here, but it can later in the game.
So it's interesting. Something about Wrathy Trapper that's very relevant.
Yeah.
It's a rogue.
It is.
So it can prowl Latchkey Fairy.
Ah, very interesting. Now that Apocryphite's holding off, but we're going to see an upkeep Pestermite here from Sander. He wants to use Pestermite as offensively as possible, in this case, denying Luis Scott Vargas his 3rd turn, essentially.
So if you look at Sander's hand, he's got a Traumatic Visions, a Latchkey Fairy, a Bone Splitter, and there's that Una right there that'll cause some serious damage. Now, if he just connects with this Pestermite this turn, down is that Latchkey Fairy, I'm almost sure, putting 3 more power onto the board. And then a Bone Splitter next turn could start doing some serious damage on Luis's life total.
Absolutely. I would have played the Una a little differently, but I like Sander's deck a lot.
Right. I mean, Fairies is a really good draft archetype in this format. It looks like Sander got a lot of good cards for that linear.
Wow. Esprezoa.
Oh, and there it is
Jeez,
again.
how many times is Luis going to get 3 for once during the course of this match?
We just have a little thing in the right-hand corner that's the 3-for-1 ticker. We saw it in the first game, too. Luis just electrolyzes away those 2 cards, or 2 of Sander's cards.
Yeah, in the other one, it was a latchkey and a
Spellstutter Sprite.
Yeah.
But still, killing that latchkey is brutal. Now, Sander still has that Una. He's got that Wrathy Trapper. And he's going to have 6 mana. He has an island and a Traumatic Visions that can go and cycle for his 6th land. So,
but he's just going to want to keep Visions up to counter something big from Luis.
Right.
And just be patient for his land drops here, most likely.
So Luis's hand looks like 3 lands, a Skyreach Manta, Tribal Flames, and there's the Manta coming down as a 4/4. And yeah, Sanders is going to say no, thank you.
Yeah.
Get that guy out of there.
Now Sanders got a really nice opening here where he can draw a land, which he didn't do. He drew a Riftwing Cloudskate instead.
Still a pretty good draw, though.
Great draw, yeah.
I mean, Cloudskate, another awesome card. I mean, you suspend it on turn 2 or you play it on turn 5, and it's reasonable either way.
It looks like he's going to
What? Time to battle.
Oh, okay. He wants to get that Apocryphite out of the way?
Or maybe he just wants to tap the Apocryphite end step and then start attacking.
Okay.
So if you were Sander here, would you have suspended that Aaron Ephemeron this turn?
Oh, you mean the Cloudskate?
Or sorry, the Cloudskate. If you were going to equip Bone Splitter, would you have also left the mana up so you could suspend the
my general feeling is I like to use up my mana, and I feel really bad when I don't. But I don't know that I would have there. It's got 3. It comes down to 3 time counters.
3, right? So you're basically taking 2 turns off it.
Yep.
And there's a Tribal Flames on the Wrathy Trapper for Luis there. Luis taps down the Apocryphite. Or sorry, Sander taps down the Apocryphite, making sure it doesn't get in for 1. And Esprezoa will come down. Now that 4/3 flyer has the drawback, quote unquote, of returning an artifact every turn, but returning Apocryphite, no big deal to have a 4/3 body.
Yep. And here it is. He's missed his land drop again, so he's going to play Riftwing Cloudskate and just basically set Luis back a turn on tempo.
Right, well, and he bounced the Apocryphite, meaning Luis had no artifact to pick up, so he had to pick up the Esprezoa, so it puts him back 2 cards there.
Yeah, but just 1 turn worth of mana, basically. He's just going to be able to cast both of them this turn if that's what he wants to do.
Unless Luis has a larger threat, and Luis's hand, once again, is stocked full of cards. I see 2 Torrent of Stones there.
So insane.
I mean, Luis's deck looks really good. All right, I think, is that a Thirst for Knowledge? Yep, Thirst for Knowledge coming down for Luis. Drawing 3 cards. So he draws Muldrifter, Mountain, and maybe... I mean, what do you pitch here if you're Luis? All right, Apocryphite goes away. And
there's he's 1 away from actual domain here.
So Luis plays Esprezoa. Now
just his defense.
Right, he's going to have to return it in his upkeep, but it can certainly block just fine till his upkeep. So he's got a 4/3 blocker.
And I'm sure he'd eagerly just trade it off for that Cloudskate, right?
Right, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if Luis, once again, Luis is the control deck in this matchup, or at least in this game state. So if the game goes long, Luis is going to have a huge upper hand. So he's happy just trading at every occasion. But Sander does have the Hailmaker of Una right there.
Interestingly, Sander didn't even equip either. He's representing another Traumatic Visions here.
Right, which he
doesn't
Luis
have. Just says, nope, I'm just windmilling everything anyway.
Right. We saw Luis's willingness to go all in the first game, and he's not pulling any punches here either.
Yeah. Sander has Echoing Truth and Pepper Smoke in his hand along with Una.
All right, and Sander really needs to find that land to get to Una, or he's going to just fall 2 behind for it to matter.
Is that a Thieving Sprite?
Thieving Sprite, so that'll make Luis basically just discard a card. He'll reveal 1 card and have to discard it. He chooses Plains.
Again, he has so many resources. He's got an Aaron Ephemeron in his hand as well.
All right.
Wow, now he's going to attack?
All right, and so Sander uses the Pepper Smoke for some value there, because it shrinks the Muldrifter down to a 1/1, and then the Riftwing Cloudskate beats right on past it. Luis draws Mirror Retriever. And so now we can start returning something else with the Esprezoa if he wants to keep it in play and not have to pay the 3 mana for it every turn. We'll see if he chooses to cast it or not.
Also, there's Apocryphite in the graveyard too, so if that Retriever were to die, you can get that back.
That's a good mana to retrieve. Oh, and he just decides to hard cast Ephemeron. Then same thing about Aaron Ephemeron, and he plays the Retriever also. The same thing about Ephemeron is not only is it really good on turn 2, but a 7 mana 4/4 flyer is perfectly serviceable. I mean,
it's totally fine.
All right, so
it's unexciting but totally fine.
And Sander bounces the Ephemeron with Echoing Truth to get in for 5, 4 from the Cloudskate, 1 from the Thieving Sprite. And I think on his next turn, he really, really needs to find that, or he needs to.
That's interesting.
Or yeah, I guess he has to land for Una now. So.
But he decided not to play it that turn. He wants to be able to. He's got a Spellstutter Sprite. He can counter a 2-drop with it. But Luis, his intention seemed to be to play big stuff from here on out.
Right.
And this looks like Ephemeron coming back
down?
Yeah,
Ephemeron heading back down. All right, not spell spreading that guy, that's for sure.
Oh, and there's the Esperzo as well.
Right.
So Luis casts 10 mana worth of spells here for this one turn.
So
and it's time for Una to make an appearance here, right?
It's got to be Una time. And Sander drew Death Denied here too, which even gives him a little bit of
that's nice.
Long game potential. So he's a Wrathy Trapper in the graveyard, a Latchkey Fairy, and a Pestermite, all which are pretty attractive cards to return. But I think you still just slam the Una here. Plus,
I think so too.
Plus, then if Luis kills the Una, you can return it next turn with Death Denied. And Sander says, no, I'm just going to pass and hold up the Death Denied.
Wow, that seems... Huh. He also, Luis, I'm sure, watched Sander go through his graveyard, so he's got to think that he has Death Denied at this point as well.
Right, and Luis is a very astute player. I mean,
he's
plays
not
at the top of the game.
Something like that. Yeah.
Right. So Luis...
whether he can do anything about it, probably not, but he'll know.
So Luis Rift Bolts the Cloudskate, and once again, it looks like Luis is on the aggressive.
He wants to hit in for 8 here.
Right, just crunches in for 8, 4 from Esperzoa, 4 from Aaron Ephemeron, and suddenly Sander's dropped from 20 to 12.
Yeah.
And he's only got a couple turns now. It is Sander who's on the back foot. And Luis still has a hand of a couple of removal spells. He's got that Retriever. All right, yep. So down comes the Retriever, which he'll...
Spellstutter Sprite's going to counter it.
Yep.
So, and then Sander can still get 2 guys back with his Death Denied.
Right. And that'll slow down the clock a little bit. But with the trigger on the stack, Luis is going to Torn of Stone, the Spellstutter Sprite. Twice.
He's going to sack 2 mountains to give it Splice onto Arcane. He's going to get one of those back to his hand. And that means that the Mirror Retriever is also going to be resolving here.
Man, now pardon my language, but that is devastating. All right. So... looks like, so if you're Death Denied here, you probably want to get back that Trapper, I'd imagine. Just
also, Luis has 2 cards left in his hand.
One of which is a Torn of Stone.
Uh-huh.
Because we know that he has it from splicing.
Mm-hmm. Again, now going back to that turn when Sander looked through his graveyard before passing the turn, Luis can potentially have set this up to leave a land in his hand or something in case Sander gets greedy and goes for that Thieving Sprite again. And Luis will know that that could be coming.
Right. So Sander's hand, Pestermite, Una, Riftwing Cloudskate, and he's got 7 mana to make the most of right here.
Man, thank you. There's that Una. I've been waiting for you to cast that.
Good old Mama Una. And
I mean, have you read that card?
Oh, it's good.
I would cast that one.
I played it in Constructed. It's a nice one.
Ooh.
I'm surprised he didn't Bone Splitter the Una here, but I suppose he just wanted to represent Pepper Smoke mana.
Yeah.
Although Luis knows which 2 cards are in Sander's hand, so he's not really bluffing anything.
But remember that, so now Sander blocks here, and now he knows that Una's going to die because Luis still has that
the Torn of Stone
in his hand.
Right.
Now, I don't know if it's an option, though, but can Sander take 8 here and go to 4? Is he just forced to force Luis to throw that away?
Yeah, I think if you're Sander, your out here is probably activating Una, so I don't know that I would have blocked there.
Yeah.
Just because if you activate and you hit like for 2, you can block. Yeah, and there's the Torn of Stone from Luis taking out that Una. And Etched Oracle comes down with max value.
For the full amount.
And Luis still has the extra land to make sure he can draw those 3 cards if necessary.
All you can eat, yeah.
Yep, so Sander draws his 8th land, meaning that he could Riftwing Cloudskate and Pestermite, but he's still in a rough position.
But he'll be able to have a pretty stable board here because he can get rid of the Etched Oracle. Well, he can make sure that the Esperzoa gets bounced back to Luis's hand one way or another here.
Now, Luis will probably still end up cards. I think if I'm Luis and my Etched Oracle is targeted, I'm just going to draw a bunch of cards.
I think so, too, and just say, sure, I'll recast this Esperzoa. Sure, he had to sack 2 mountains, but he's still got, 7, 9 mana on the table.
Right, and I'm sure Luis has plenty more gas in his deck and plenty more artifacts for the Esperzoa to return.
Right.
So there's the Cloudskate. He'll target the Oracle. Luis will indeed draw 3 cards in response. And let's see what they are. I think I see a Manta in there. Plenty of juice. And Sander passes with 3 mana up. Are those all swamps? Oh no, there's an island there. Great.
All right, so let's see what Luis has to rebolster his board position. We have 1 known card for sure.
Oh my, so Sanctum Gargoyle. More value. And
this is insane.
Probably getting back the Etched Oracle. Yep, and there's the Etched Oracle. And there's the Esperzoa. I'm sure Luis would be perfectly happy returning that Sanctum Gargoyle every turn.
Wow!
And a Pyrite Spellbomb. So now Luis can Spellbomb the Cloudskate, pick up the Sanctum Gargoyle with Esperzoa, replay the Gargoyle, return the Pyrite Spellbomb, and he's got this insane engine rolling here.
This is just absurd at this point.
Right. This is what the artifact deck likes to do. I was talking with Sam Black between rounds, and he said he doesn't like the aggro artifact deck that much, but the control artifact deck, exactly the one that Luis has here, is the one that he loves to play with.
Just grind them.
Right. You use a Fairy Mechanist, Sanctum Gargoyles, Esprazoas, and you get to play some of the best blue cards like Aaron Ephemeron.
Here it is, Sanctum Gargoyles. He's
Yep.
going to get back his Pyrite Spell Bomb.
Indeed. And there's the Spell Bomb. Boom.
And let's not forget that Luis he's got Sander down to virtual 1, and yeah, now that's going to happen so that doesn't.
All right.
And immediately Luis is going to use his Spell Bomb to take out that Pestermite, and it looks like Sander's almost ready to concede here. He's drawn his card. He's doing some double checking. No, he's got a Death Rattle here.
Okay, that'll buy him a little bit of time.
Wow, and he found Luis completely tapped out there.
All right, so.
But he can just get it back. It's just insane.
Right. And I mean, he can bring back the Spell Bomb too.
And get him down to 1 if he wants.
Down to virtual 1.
Yeah.
I don't know what Sander could draw here. I think we'll probably see him extend the hand in a moment.
Yeah, he gets a draw step here though.
Right. We'll see. Maybe Thirst for Knowledge and something crazy, but 2 more Mirror Retrievers for the beatdown, just in case. Oh, he draws the land, and that's it. LSV moves on to 5-0 with a really, really good artifact control deck. That deck looks fantastic.
Yeah.
He not only had all the important common and uncommon pieces, Mirror Retriever, Esprazoa, but he also had Academy Ruins, which is an insane piece of that deck.
Yeah. And that makes his mana a lot better, right? I mean, we're talking about a deck that looked like it had kind of crazy, sketchy mana, but in reality, when a lot of your spells are colorless, the color of the lands you have doesn't matter as much.
They mana fix you kind of in a way. So we switch from a board state that looks very, very different.
Wow.
There's a lot of permanents on the battlefield here, so let me digest this for you.
Sure.
On the left, Orey has Kitchen Finks, Saltfield Field Recluse, Amaru Scout, 2 Stinkweed Imps, and a Bound-In Silenced Sanctum Gargoyle. Willie Edel, on the other hand, has a
Divinity of Pride over there,
yeah,
too.
Divinity of Pride. 2 Veteran Armors now, Muddle Drifter, and a Paladin Mycodrome with 9 counters.
Wow.
Now this is some creature magic. And I'm sure Orey's he's going to activate that Amaru Scout.
Let's see what he digs up with it.
He probably has plenty of good options to go find. And there's a Blight Speaker. Now that will maybe start whittling away at Willie's life total.
We're going to get the life totals up for you as soon as possible. That's going to matter. Like if Willie's at 4, right, we're gonna have a lot of interest here. If he's at 16, then it looks like I like Willie's side of the board quite a bit here if that's the case.
Right, and now Orey does have those 2 Stinkweed Imps, which are holding off the Divinity of Pride.
Right.
Some of Willie's flyers, but I think Willie just has the slightly better board position here.
Yeah.
But it also depends a lot on how many rebels Orey has in his deck.
That's
if
true.
he's got 3 more rebels, he could just take complete control of this board state.
Yeah, you can just overwhelm Willie with card advantage.
If he has a lot of Bound-In Silences, something like that. Although I'd imagine I probably would have found a Bound-In Silence already, but
yeah.
Let's see. So we'll have life totals for you here in just a moment. Willie looking through his graveyard there.
Oh, let's get a quick count. Yeah.
6, 11, 12 cards there.
Wow.
Not very many. So it's definitely dangerous. I'd imagine if Willie is that few cards, Orey is probably around that few cards, which means that dredging those Stinkweed Imps is a dangerous proposition. So if Willie can attack and you make the Stinkweed Imps block, Orey might not be able to spend the cards to dredge back those Imps. All right, and Willie just decides to pass the turn.
Though just looking at the graveyards real quick, we see that Willie's is a big pile, and Orey's is like 4 cards and a few exiles.
That's true. That's true.
So he might not be in the same shape. I don't think he feels any pressure to do anything, though, or he just passes the turn back. He's like, look, man, you're going to lose before I do if everything stays the same.
Right. Orey's hand, just 2 lands and a Test of Faith. So Willie is actually at 4 life.
Oh, wow.
Your guess was exactly correct.
Okay.
You just know Magic that well.
Yeah,
Marshall.
sure.
And so Blightspear is going to cause some serious pressure there, especially if he's got another one he could search up with that Amaru Scout. Take possession on the Blightspeaker.
Oh, wow.
Split second means Orey cannot respond. Check that out.
Oh, so nasty.
Now, there are so many mechanics in Modern Masters, sometimes you just forget there are a couple split-second spells hanging out there, and that's one of them. The other day, I stole like an Executioner's Capsule, that kind of stuff can happen.
Oh, yeah, right.
It'd be especially insane if Willie has some more Rebels in his deck to go search up.
Uh-huh.
But so Orey's going to activate that Amaru Scout and go find another Rebel. We'll see if he has another Blightspeaker in his deck or not. All right, so he does have a Bound in Silence, which he puts on the Divinity of Pride. And that'll make sure that Willie can't overwhelm Orey with flyers. Now, Divinity is a 5-mana 4/4 flyer that has lifelink, and it turns into an 8/8 if you have 25 or more life. Now, Willie, not exactly at 25 or more life, but still a 4/4 lifelink flyer, very good. When you bound and silence it, that shuts down that engine.
Right.
Bound and Silence is a weird little card. It's a enchantment that is also a rebel, so you can search it up with those rebel searchers.
All right, looks like Orey's going to start attacking here.
Yep, so Deep Cavern Imp joins the 2 Stinkweed Imps to enter the fray, and now that Divinity of Pride is safely taken care of, Orey feels like, okay, I can start attacking and maybe trade off a little bit if I want to.
Now, how concerned is Orey about that?
The Pallid Mycoderm with a bunch of counters?
Down there.
I think you have to be concerned about it.
You can do some pretty explosive things with that, right?
Right, especially if Willie finds, like, for example, an Avian Changeling even, which, would get pumped up by the Pallid Mycoderm's sacrifice ability.
Yeah.
So the Test of Faith, I think, here in Orey's hand is going to be brutal.
Yeah.
Because he's going to block that Deep Cavern Imp. I think there's a very good chance he's going to block that Deep Cavern Imp. And then if Orey Test of Faith, he's going to have a 4/4 flyer.
Yes.
And that, that's equal to Willie's life total.
Right.
Now, Willie does have the 2 veteran armors, each one granting his entire team +0/+2. So that Mull Drifter is actually a 2/4. That Flicker Wisp actually a 3/3. This is a crazy board state.
This is insane.
But Modern Masters is full of crazy things. This won't be the last crazy board state you see today, I'm sure.
That's right. So as it sits, Willie Edel, looks like he's switching him up.
Okay, so it looks like Willie has chosen to put Flicker Wisp on the Deep Cavern Imp and Mull Drifter on the Stinkweed Imp. Let's see what Orey decides to do. He's probably going to cast that Test of Faith, and yep, he taps his 2 mana. And he's going to save the Stinkweed Imp. Willie, in response, Path to Exile on the Imp. Not only making sure that Test of Faith doesn't go off, but exiling the Imp too, which is fairly relevant. Orey, in response, uses the Saltfield Recluse to make sure the Flicker Wisp doesn't kill off his Deep Cavern Imp.
Okay, and he goes and gets a Swamp from the path.
Right. So, plenty of mana going around here.
A lot of Magic cards on this battlefield.
Right. And
the key here is that Willie's at 3 and needs to make sure that he doesn't take any damage in the air in the upcoming turns, and he's done a good job this turn of doing that.
Right, and Orey's at a pretty safe 18 life.
Did Willie forget to use that Blight Speaker?
Okay.
Oh, he's going to start making some dudes.
All right, so maybe that safe 18 life isn't so safe anymore.
Yeah.
So Pallid Mycoderm can generate a lot of damage really fast. It's a 4-mana 2/4 that gets the counter every turn like most of the Thalids do. But you can sacrifice one of your Saprolings to give all your Thalids and Saprolings +1/+1.
All your fungus.
Oh, all your fungus, excuse me.
So if you happen to have a random
Changeling.
Fungus.
Or I guess those are also fungus, but... So,
but still, Willie can be setting up for a pretty nasty one-shot here.
All right, so there's a 3rd veteran armor.
Wow!
Villia's creatures are just huge. On the toughness, anyway.
Yeah.
If only Dorn the Siege Tower was in this set.
He's got
Not quite on that one.
So blockers for Orey is just the Kitchen Finks there and the Armor Scout, and then whatever else he can search up with his Armor Scout.
Right. And we don't have Deckless, so I'm not sure. Actually, no, we do have Deckless. Let's see. He's got 2 Scouts, 2 Seekers. He got a Bound in Silence. 2 Saltfield Recluses.
Okay.
So those are his options to go find in white. In black, he's got 1 Blight Speaker, 1 Deep Cavern Imp. And that's about it. Worth noting, he's got an Elspeth Knight Errant in his deck, which is certainly a powerful one to draw, and could do some serious damage to Willie if he draws it.
That's what Orey has?
That's what Orey has in his deck, yeah.
All right, here comes some attacks from Willie.
All right, so now if you're Orey, how do you block here? Looking at that Kitchen Finks, which is almost assuredly going to block. Well, maybe, I mean...
So these are two...
Maybe not.
These are 2/5...
Oh, man. The extra toughness makes it so complicated.
Yeah, and the other guys are 1/4s?
Right, so check it out. So the 2 veteran armors are each 2/4s.
Isn't there a 3rd one somewhere?
There's a 3rd one, yeah, but they don't pump themselves.
Oh, they don't pump themselves.
Right, so each of the veteran armors is a 2/4, and then the tokens are 1/5s, but you can sacrifice a token to give the other tokens, or one. The tokens are 1/4s, excuse me, but you can sacrifice it to pump the other tokens. So Orey goes to find an Amaru Seekers here with an Amaru Scout. But Willie is playing white, so he's got that Flicker Wisp and the veteran armor back to block in case Orey was thinking about getting aggressive with those Seekers. So it looks like Orey just took the damage, dropped down to 11. Now he's going to be able to untap everything and have some good defense rolling again. And I forgot to pay his echo cost on Deep Cavern.
He even made sure he kept a land in his hand to do it, and he forgot to pay it.
That's rough for Orey. I mean, the flyer there would go a long ways. Like, Willie does have 2 flyers to block, but, you know, if he could find a way to break through. All right, there's a Hillcomber Giant. Now, there's a way to break through. Willie has a mountain.
A solitary mountain underneath that, underneath his lands over there, and that thing is lethal.
Right.
If Orey gets to untap and get in there for an attack, he can do it. Now, here comes the Blight Speaker to drop Orey down to 10, so Willie either needs to find a way to kill the Hillcomber Giant or stop it for a turn, or he needs to kill Orey this turn.
Right. Now, he's got a lot of power on the board. I haven't done the math. I don't know if the players have done the math. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
But if you're Willie, I mean, if you don't have an answer to that Hillcomber Giant, I think you just attack.
Yeah. Represent Stir the Pride or something and make your opponent panic or whatever. But
right. Well, we'll see what he chooses to do here. Now, I didn't see what Willie drew.
I also did not see. Willie Edel down a game here to Orey Guo, so
right.
This is it. This turn is it.
All right, so yeah, here we go. Just like we predicted, crunch. Muldrifter, Flicker Wisp, 3 veteran armors, 3 tokens, Pallid Mycoderm, all into the red zone. Blight Speaker holding back as it can tap to deal 1 damage, so no reason to attack there. And let's see what Orey can do. Does he make it blocks? He's like, no, I'm going to put this Hillcomber Giant back here. This guy's not getting in the red zone.
He knows that one's not coming in, and he also knows that he just needs to survive the turn here. Now, this is an interesting spot because Willie, having made this attack, if Orey throws away his board state to try to preserve that Hillcomber Giant, and Willie does have a way to hold it off or even a turn.
Even just a bounce spell would do the trick.
Yeah.
Echoing Truth.
You know, you mentioned if Willie can search some stuff up with the Blight Speaker as well, he could have been waiting on that.
Right, if Willie still has Abound in Silence in his deck, that could be all the difference, right?
that is a deck that you play in any deck that can play white. It's not like it's a Rebel-specific spell. He could just randomly have one. Now, we'll also note that Willie's got, I think, 3 cards left in his library. Like, it's not very many.
Right. We'll see. I mean, Willie's a good player. Will that be enough to get him out of the situation?
Willie will concede if Orey blocks correctly and has it set up so that his Hillcomber Giant can kill Willie.
Looking at 2 cards, I haven't been able to see them. What does Willie have hiding down there? Oh my!
His mannerism suggests that he doesn't have anything.
Right. I think if he had a Stir the Pride or or some kind of answer, he might have done it already. Okay, and Orey's going to search up an Armory Scout. Okay, getting yet another Rebel. All right, so now he's got the Armory Scout back there, and there's the hand.
There we go.
Willie extends the hand, and Orey Go takes the match with what looks like a pretty good Rebels deck.
Yeah, man, and it looks like it's straight white-black. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, he was able to search, the last 3 or 4 turns just since we joined this game, and he already had a couple of other Rebels already on the board. So it looks like he's gone full Rebel here.